All right, so welcome everybody. We're just going to give Facebook a moment to load, and YouTube looks like it's loading as well. All right, here we go. Welcome to Money Matters. Today is Monday. What are we? February 26th. My name is Hung Lu. I'm with Cash Property. And today, over the next 30 minutes, we will be answering, we'll do an analysis deal. Okay, and this one was pretty interesting. This one came through as a request from a friend of a friend about property management and whether or not it was worth getting into property management. So we'll do an analysis around that as a career path. And then I've got two questions that came through, so I'm happy to answer questions. And these two questions were pretty interesting. So we will go through those two questions after we do the property analysis. So before I forget about the property analysis, the property management stuff, I'm going to share with you how I would calculate and look at that as a potential career opportunity. But please, before you take my suggestion and you'll figure out if I'm saying a yes or no to doing property management as a career, before you take my advice on that, go and do your own calculations, talk to other property management people and see if it's in alignment with what you want to do in terms of your end goal and family stuff. So, okay, so just my quick disclaimer on that one there. Okay, the other thing is, I'm doing these weekly because I want to, share the knowledge that I have, but and also, to connect with other accredited investors and see what we're all working on. So please, if you have a moment, connect with me. I'm happy to share ideas and see if we could work together on potential opportunities. Okay, so that is the outcome of these calls. Okay, so let's get into the property management calculation. So I did put together an initial sheet just to make sure that my thought process is going pretty straight here. Okay, so let me bring up my spreadsheet. Oh, here we go. Okay, so here you'll see just an Excel spreadsheet, and yeah, I'm sorry, I tend to always bring up an Excel sheet. I find that, analyzing opportunities, that's the best way to do it, is just to get the numbers out of my brain onto a piece of paper. So let's just say you're thinking about becoming a property manager, okay? Now, before you decide if you're going to go down that path, make sure you research what the license requirement is, because in each province the license requirement is different. There may be annual or biannual renewals on your license. Okay, and then there's also different types of property management licenses, like for condos, for commercial, for residential. So make sure you get the right one. And then you may need to be under a brokerage to do property management. So just make sure you do the research that's needed for your province to do property management. Okay, so now property management, whether or not you're looking at 10 units, 40 units or more, the calculations is pretty much the same. Okay, you're going to either structure it as a flat fee, so like 4%, 7%, 10% for each of the monthly incomes for the units. Okay, so if the building has, let's just say in this case, 10 units, and you go to your the building owner and you guys have negotiated a 7% property management fee, flat fee, let's just say for that example, and that building is, charging on average $2,000 a month, okay, and you're at 7%, so you're going to make about 1,400 for that month. Okay, so this is per month. So when you think of it that way, it's not a ton of money. Okay, so I'm going to show you the formula that's behind this. So you take the 7% times your 10 units times $2,000 a month in rent. Okay, so this would be 1,400 for you as your fee for managing at 7%. Okay, your roles as a property manager will depend on what you can negotiate. Okay, your fees are going to depend on what your role, what responsibilities you have. So does it have bookkeeping? Are you collecting actual physical checks or money from the tenant? Are you letting in the contractors, right? So there's, are you finding contractor quotes, right? And how much are you liaisoning with the tenants? Okay, so all of that will build into your percentage points. So I've done a 4 to 10% range because usually that's the range of the property management fee. I've included a 15% here because when I used to have my short-term rental cottage, because it was waterfront, because it was remote, there was a property management company that wanted 15%. They originally started at 18 and I got them down to 15. And 15 was the going rate. Like 18 was the going rate for managing cottages. Okay, which is so crazy if you think about that. So back then we were collecting, about 3,500 a week back then. So basically from that one rental a week, okay, okay, so in this case, we're calculating 10 here, right? They would make $525 for that one rental. So think if they had 10 units, okay, like 10 cottages all across this lake, they'd be making $5,000 just from that 1 week of rental, okay? So it can be pretty insane when you think about the compounding. Sorry, it's not compounding, but the accumulation of the units, okay? So I want to make sure that you understand it's not compounding income here, okay? Because it's a one-time income, and then you have to go and do other things with that income. Like it's not building on top, like you're not getting income on that income. Okay, so that's different. So if you're looking at 10 units, 20 units, 30 units, or 40 units, your numbers are going to just accumulate based on those number of units. Okay, so that's fantastic. So let's just say you're in a 40-unit building and you are charging 10%. And the rents, let's say, are $2,000. Okay, so you're going to be making $8,000 from that 40-unit building per month. Okay, just from collecting that rent. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the formula on that one. It's the 40 units times $2,000 a unit per month times your 10%. Okay, now this is assuming full occupancy. If the unit is sitting vacant, you as a property manager make no money. Okay, this 10% could also be adjusted where it's saying, okay, you as a property manager, you're going to get a fee plus every time you have to go and visit a unit to communicate with the tenant, to issue a form, to do whatever, there's going to be a fee on top of that. Okay, so it could be a percentage plus a visit fee. Okay, this visit fee is entirely up to you to negotiate. So it could be per visit, saying, okay, every time I visit a tenant, every time I serve a piece of document for you, every time I let a contractor into the building, an inspector, whatever the reason, it's $15 a visit. Okay, so I'm picking numbers here that I've seen in other people's contracts. So it could be 15. I've seen them go up as high as 30, as high as $100 a visit. Okay, which is so crazy. So now let's just say you had to do 5 visits that month. Well, then it's going to be 5 visits times whatever your flat fee is for that visit. Okay, so this is not to let tenants in, like filling up the units is part of your flat fee of 7 to 10%, and then your visitation fee is on top of that. Okay, another thing that you can charge as part of your property management is what's called a contractor markup. Okay, this is where for every contractor that visits your building to do work, you have to supervise them. You have to show them what the work is done. You get a quote from them, and usually we're asking for 3 quotes, right, as a minimum. So there's time and effort involved in that. So then you would say, okay, for every contractor rental that we have to do, I'm going to charge you a 3% fee. Okay, so if the bill is $500, like a small plumbing job, $500, well, you're going to make 15%. Sorry, $15. Okay, because you're going to make 3% on that. So let me show you the formula here. So it's just $500 times your 3%. Okay, so if it's a $1,500 rental bill from whoever, and you're charging a 3% fee on that, okay? So it's 1,500 times your 3%. So you will make $45 just from getting that renovation job completed. Okay. So I've seen this contractor markup on pretty much all of the property management firms that I've looked at. So it's interesting though, because when it comes to this, some property management companies will say it's pre-tax, whereas some will say post-tax. So you do have, so if you're an owner of a building, you want to make sure that you understand if it's pre or post-tax on the contractor fee. Okay. And then, yeah, so then you could potentially, as a property manager, make your flat percent interest fee. Okay. Sorry, not interest rate, interest fee, plus your per visit to the building to deal with tenants, plus a markup on the contractors. Okay. So now this will depend on what you negotiate for, what your role and responsibilities are, and how much interactions the owner has with the tenants and how much you have with the tenants and so forth. Okay. So this property management career path is fantastic if you can get 40 plus units. Okay. So as an owner of multiple buildings, I would look at hiring a full-time property manager to manage a whole building. If it's like 100 units, 100, like greater than 125 units, okay, that would justify hiring somebody on staff to manage those units. Okay. So if you're an independent property manager and you want to go and farm yourself out to owners, keep in mind that, in order for you to hire somebody underneath you so that you're not the one doing the active physical work, you're going to need at least a minimum of 100 doors. Okay. So yeah, so then units is also doors. Okay. So I'm just making sure that I look at my notes to make sure I cover all the points that I want to get across on this, because, property management is one of the career paths that you can do within real estate to make extra income, like to get streams of income here, right? And it's always suggested that you look at multiple streams of income within real estate. It's not enough just to buy properties and own them and then not manage them or not do other streams of income within real estate. Okay. So another stream of income could be becoming a real estate agent, mortgage broker. Okay. There's so many other streams within real estate. If you specialize, like if you're a lawyer, you could specialize specifically in real estate law. If you're an accountant, specialize specifically in real estate accounting. Those would be an additional stream of income within real estate. Okay, so while you are looking at, I'm just going to stop my share here. Okay, so property management is very active, unless you can go and, if you have enough doors and then you can delegate that to somebody. But if you're a lone person doing property management, or if you've got like 2 or 3 people on your team, it's still going to be pretty active because you have to constantly look at tenants, look for owners, and you have to make sure they're happy. Like property management is one of those very thankless jobs. Like people expect you to be available 24/7. Now you don't need to be, right? You can set your company up for property management where you don't respond to things, like you physically don't have to respond to things for 24/7. Okay. Now I'm going to bring back that spreadsheet because I want to share this with you here. So at the beginning, we were talking about a 10% fee. When you are running your analysis on acquiring a multifamily, you want to pick a number, whether it's 7% or 10%, a number that you're going to consistently use to analyze your deals. Okay. Because what happens is if on one property you're looking at it and you're saying 5%, and then on another property you're looking at it and saying, okay, well, property management, there's going to be 10%. You're not going to be able to compare apples to apples, right? You want to have a consistent number for property management. So usually I use 10%. That's the going rate that I get when I ask for quotes from property management companies. Okay, so you as an owner, it's entirely up to you. If you become a property management company, you could start off saying, okay, you know what, we'll charge you 5% for X amount of periods or for certain roles that we do, and then tack on more percentages depending on what additional responsibilities you get. Okay. So yeah, so I've seen anywhere from 5 to 8% as quotes. But then of course, by the time you add on the visits and the contractor markups, you're way above that 5 or 8%. Okay, so let's see what else. Oh, so property management here. This is a great path to go down if you are part of a GP in a GP LP structure. Okay, meaning that you're already actively making sure that that opportunity is working. So if you're already on the GP side, then as an added bonus, rather than going hiring another property management company, you hire your own property management company. Okay. Now, I would suggest that you disclose that to your LPs. Okay. You know, transparency is always better than them finding out later that, hey, wait a minute, your 10% that you're charging for property management is your own company. Okay. So it's better to just to disclose that up front. So if you are part of the GP, then setting up a property management company is a fantastic idea, because now it's not double dipping, but you're leveraging one opportunity for two potential streams of income. Okay. And the great thing about this is that because you have stake in that opportunity working, running at its best, you are going to manage this way better than somebody else is going to manage it for you, right? And at the same time, you're going to be able to save, well, like you're not really saving it, but you're charging for the property management. So rather than paying another firm, you have your own group of people doing property management. Okay. So that's a great way to leverage your GP LP structures or like your multifamilies or commercial plus land. Okay. So this sort of calculation, this structure also can apply to shareholders, commercial plus land, retail, all of that stuff. Okay. So what else do I want to share with that? So when you are targeting to build out to like 40 plus units, you could target multifamily buildings, or you could target accidental landlords. So individuals who inherited a property, individuals who originally bought a property to live in and then had to move, downsize or upsize or whatever, and they kept their previous property, and now they've got two properties, and they're like, well, I don't know what to do to manage a property, or I don't know, how to manage it, or I don't have time. You could potentially find those accidental landlords. There's a company in BC that, from what I heard, is excellent at working with accidental landlords. They're called Panda Luxury Property Management. And they've got this system, okay, where they will do property management for duplexes or triplexes for these one-off landlords, like these individuals who just have a primary home and then a secondary investment property, maybe a third property. Okay. Then the great thing with their company is that now they've got this source of income from property management, but then they also have their real estate agent license as well, meaning that when that accidental landlord decides, hey, I don't want to own this property anymore, well, who's the first person they're going to say, hey, can you help me sell this property? Okay. So now this real estate agent, the brokerage will now have sort of first take at becoming their representative. Okay. So the same idea can also happen with bigger buildings. Like if you're a property manager for a bigger building, when that building goes to sell, who are they going to ask, right? They're probably going to ask you as a property manager. A bunch of condos I know in Toronto, when the condo owners are ready to sell, they tell the property manager. And I know that because the property manager is a friend of mine. He's like, Huong, do you know anybody who wants to buy this building? All right, like this unit. Okay, so being a property manager gives you sort of like the in on places that are coming up, and you could potentially buy it sort of off market and buy it before somebody else gets it if it's a really good deal. Okay, so we talked about the licensing requirements. Yeah, we talked about the accidental landlords and individuals who are too busy to manage their own places, right? Because their full-time job or their other career is making way more money than what paying you would be for property management. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so keep in mind that if you also are going to go into property management, you're going to need to deal with potentially tenants, and you're going to need to have a tenant database. Okay, so that is an expense that you would have to take on. Now, you can charge a fee back to your owner as, on top. Okay, keep in mind that the more things you charge for, at some point the owner is going to be like, wait a minute, it's cheaper for us to go to another property management firm. Okay, so the fees and bonus, yeah, so that was everything that I had to say about becoming a property manager, okay, and starting your own company. So depending on how big you want to grow this, it can be a great idea. It can also be a great way to leverage other things within real estate. Okay. Now, if you are thinking about just becoming a property manager, here's the thing. Like if you're not thinking bigger and how to leverage your property management company, this may not be the way to go. Okay. Because it's a lot of work to manage a lot of these units, and you're constantly having to find new units to manage. Okay. And it's your own company. So you're going to want to, think that through before you commit to doing the licensing and setting up this company. Because it's an active business, you're going to have to pay taxes on it. Okay. Even if you set it up as a corp, and you have your regular expenses that you get to write off. Now, if you're going to set this up under a corporation, you might be like, okay, well, Hong, it's active, but because it's active under a corp, it's different. Okay. Well, keep in mind though, you're going to pay an income under that corp, and then that income, then you're going to pay yourself. Okay. Separately as an employee. So now you're going to be taxed at whatever margin on your personal taxes, and you're also going to be paying within the corporation. Okay, so now I'm not an accountant, so please go and check with an accountant on all that taxation stuff. Okay, so yeah, I think I've talked the property management thing to death there. All right, so that is the analysis portion today. Okay, so we do have a couple minutes. All right, great. So let me go into the two questions that I got. One came through. Let me just bring up this other sheet here so that I can see it. Okay, so the question came through and it was, okay, so, somebody's looking for input on this question. Okay, so option one, do I buy my own property and live in it, so it becomes like a primary residence? Or option two, continue to rent and buy an investment property either in my own city or elsewhere? Okay, so that is actually a question that I get quite often, because it's like, okay, do I buy my own property or do I continue to rent and then buy an investment property elsewhere? Okay, so here's the thing. These are like an apple and orange thing. Like, should I buy an apple or should I buy an orange? Okay, two very different mindsets, two very different outcomes, two very different taxation situations, right? So here's the thing. If you want to buy a primary home and live in it, that is for you, for your family. It's not an investment per se, right? Even though it can increase in appreciation, there's mortgage paid on because you're paying that down. And if you're able to rent out rooms or add in a laneway house or a secondary suite, yeah, then you'll have some income. Okay, now keep in mind though that having your own place, for some people, it's a must. Like, I need to, like, for my family, I want to have a home. Okay. That is completely different than buying an investment property, either in your backyard or anywhere in Canada. Like, it doesn't matter, right? Buying an investment property is a completely different mindset. It's a different taxation altogether. Okay. So you want to look at the end of the day, what is the outcome that you want, right? Is it to build a bunch of doors within your real estate portfolio, or are you happy with just like 4 or 5 properties, right? For the longest time, I only had about, 9 or 10 doors. Like to me, getting bigger meant more problems, right? And so it wasn't on my list of outcomes to have like 5,000 doors. Okay. So you want to look at, okay, well, at the end of the day, if I only had 5 or 10 doors, is that going to give me the financial freedom that I want by using real estate? Or do I just want, my primary home and maybe a secondary, cottage to go to, or a secondary investment property to go to? Okay. Two very different things. The analysis on that is completely different. Okay. So you know, yeah, to answer that question, I would say, like, what is it that you want at the end of the day? If you want to build this big portfolio, right? It doesn't matter if you're renting. Like this concept of, well, I need my own place before I can have a portfolio. That is a complete myth as well. So, um, I actually rent where I am. Like I rent in my family's house, right? So partly because I'm like, well, if I keep renting, I can just use my capital to go and buy other deals, right? To do private lending opportunities. So I don't need to have that ownership of a house, right? And also because all of my properties have been rented out for years and years. Like when we were traveling full time, we didn't have a primary residence, right? And so for us to go back into one of those units, it would, you know, create a lot of taxation issues. Like, okay, well, we draw the line in the sand for capital gains, right? And I didn't want to have to deal with that. So, in my situation, I could be like, okay, well, I have to buy a home because I want my son and me to have a base, right? But for us, like, you know what, we could pick up next year and start traveling again full time, right? So for us, having that physical home as our primary is not a big deal for us. But if it is for you, well, then that may, hinder, like that may put more weight on that category for you. Okay. Now, I know it also makes sense that if you're the husband or the wife in that situation, okay? So a few times when I've gotten this question, it would come from the husband. The husband's like, I could care less if I'm renting, right? But the wife wants a home. To them, having a home is security. Having a home is that, it's not even keeping up with the Joneses mindset, but it was like, I want a home for my family. Okay. So if your significant other is also weighing in on that question and they want that home, that's going to weigh in on how much of your capital goes to buying that primary residence. Okay. So let me move on to the next question. The next question came through from a gentleman named David. The situation here is that they have a condo that has a $400,000 special assessment. That's massive. Okay. So if you don't know what a special assessment is, this is one of the reasons why I do not believe in buying condos as an investment property, because you get these special assessments and you have no control over them. And on top of that, you have to pay the special assessment. Okay. It is based on your square footage of your condo unit. Okay. So, so they've got a 400K special assessment. Okay, and it doesn't say if it's a one-time payment or if it's over a period of time. When I had my special assessment on my condo, like that we lived in, which I'm also keeping as an investment property now, we had a special assessment. I think it was 40,000, and that was manageable, right? 400,000, like that is massive. So the question is, should I sell or keep? Okay, this sounds very familiar to a question that I got a while ago about selling a condo or keeping it. Okay, so I don't see, yeah, so there's not enough information here for me to give like one answer here. So I'm going to give a bunch of scenarios here, okay? So one, if it's your primary residence, so if you live at this condo full time, I would say that you, okay, and it depends on one, if it's your primary, because now you've got some capital gains exemptions because it's your primary residence. But then it depends on, okay, well, are you going to be able to pay that 400K, and how, like, are you borrowing funds to pay that? Okay. And how long do you have to pay that off? Okay. Because the thing is, because this information is out there, other, like, if you try to sell it now, other people are going to be able to find this out. Like, if somebody has a good lawyer, when they go through your strata documents, they're going to see this 400K requirement in there. Okay. So you could sell it, but you may not get the price that you want for it. Like, and that's going to affect everybody in the building, because everybody's going to have to pay something for the special assessment. Okay. So one, if you're thinking about selling it, make sure you understand, okay, if I sell it, with the special assessment, I'm going to get this number. Like, you're not going to get top price for it because of the special assessment number. Okay. If it's an investment property that, okay, so this condo, you live somewhere else, you rent out the condo as an investment. Okay. So keep in mind that your special assessment cost is a tax deductible expense. Okay. Now check with your accountant on that. Okay. Some insurance companies will actually cover that special assessment. So that one doesn't matter if it's your primary or if it's an investment. So that would be one thing to check out first. Okay, so that my understanding was that this was an older building, so I don't think insurance would cover it because it's an older building, but there may be a clause in there that says that, okay, if it's this type of repair, that then the insurance company would cover it. So check that out. Okay. If you're able to sell it and you get a chunk of money, right? So that portion, that profit, if there's profit, can you buy something better? Can you do something better with that money that will give you a better return? Okay. So for me, it would need to say, okay, it's worth my time to sell it because I can get X amount of money out and I can take that money and go do something else with it. Okay. If you're basically going to sell it, pay off your mortgage, pay off the special assessment or whatever, and you're like walking away with nothing, it might make sense to keep it. Okay. Until that special assessment rolls, is paid down or paid with, and then you can just sort of sit on the appreciation if there's appreciation, and then wait for the market to go up again until you can sell it. Okay, but that is a huge chunk of money. Like 400K is a lot of money to be paying on a special assessment. Yeah. Okay. All right. So those are the two questions that came through. And so that's what I've got for you guys today. All right. Thank you so very, very much for tuning in, everybody. I will see you next Monday. Bye-bye.